Okay, so it's time for a November reading wrap up. I read 6 books in November. I read Shatter Me, Destroy Me, so the novella, Unravel Me, and Ignite Me. And I've talked about Shatter Me previously, and I enjoyed Shatter Me. Shatter Me was a good book. I enjoyed reading it. I thought it was a fun book, and I enjoyed Juliet as a character, and I think this writing style is very fun. And as far as Destroy Me goes, I was able to read that one very quickly because the book that I had it as part of the novel. And it was fun to see that second perspective of Aaron. And then when we read the next novel, you see that same situation from Juliet's POV. And that was cool. So I enjoyed that. And it was interesting to see these characters kind of become more fleshed out and have bigger things happen to them. And this whole war happened to them a bit more. The different decisions that they were going to have to make. And then see Juliet and Aaron's relationship finally come together in Ignite Me. Because goddamn, did Adam fuck up. I knew that he was going to have to do something drastic in order to get Juliet to, cut him loose. And holy shit, was he mean. He was so mean. But regardless, I enjoyed the way these characters progressed and their character development. I will say that the end of Ignite Me felt very sped up, fast-paced. A lot happened very quickly. And, we didn't get to see or hear from all of the other characters after Juliet went back to base. It was just Juliet completed her task and she sees everybody and she sees Aaron. But it wasn't a very fulfilling ending. So if that had been the ending to a trilogy, I don't think I would have been satisfied. Knowing that there's 3 more books out, or the rest of the novellas and books out, I know that it's not the end, but if this was the initial end of the trilogy and the series, I don't think I would have been satisfied with that ending. But overall, it was still a good read. I think I rated all of the books. I don't know, what did I rate them all? Ignite Me, I gave them 4 stars. I gave them all 4 stars. They were all fun. I was entertained. And really, that's how I rate my books. It's all based on vibes, honestly. If I'm having a good time reading them, that's how they're gonna get rated. I also read The Dismissal of Miss Ruth Brown this month. And The Dismissal of Miss Ruth Brown is a biography. I read this for my grad program. The Dismissal of Miss Ruth Brown follows Ruth Brown, and she is fighting for civil rights and integration into the libraries. However, she is kicked out of her job for these actions, and she, tries to fight back. There's a lot of backlash in the town, but she doesn't get her job back, and the reasons are covered up. The reasons for her firing are covered up with talks of McCarthyism and those sort of discussions, and it brings up a lot of discussions about censorship in the libraries and access to information. So it was a very compelling and intriguing read. So that was something different, broadened, what I normally would be reading. And I had to analyze it very critically, as it was part of my master's program. But if you're looking to read about female librarians, I would recommend this book. She was obviously, a change maker, or attempting to be a change maker in the library system, and she paid the price for it. She lost her job, but there were a lot of people who supported her and recognized, the consequences of the actions, and that what happened to her was wrong. So it was very interesting, and there was a lot of rhetoric in it that I recognized that was still kind of happening today. And then so moving on from that, I also read Iron Flame, which Iron Flame is a book that has many, many faults. I read this book because I enjoyed Fourth Wing, and I wanted to know what was going to happen to these characters. I'm invested in these characters. This book was it was so poorly written. There were so many points in this book where I paused and I was like, why? What was happening here? You skipped over an entire chunk of information, and an entire plot point was missed in this area, and I just did not know what was happening because of the poor writing in it. So in that regard, I did not enjoy Fourth Wing just because of the writing. And I know that comes down, or I think that comes down to the fact that this book was rushed to get to production and publishing. I don't think the author had enough time to write this book and proofread it, which is a shame. However, I do enjoy, the general concept of this book. I think is very fun. I'm invested in these characters. If anything bad happens to some of these characters, if anything worse happens to Xaden, might cry. Xaden deserves happiness and sunshine and all the love in the world. So that's just how I feel about Fourth Wing, is that it was written very poorly. However, I'm emotionally invested into these characters. Do I have opinions about Red Tower and the authors? Yeah. But did I read the book anyway? Did I enjoy the entire experience? No. I also read This Dark Descent in November. And This Dark Descent I talked about previously, or a little bit. And This Dark Descent, again, this is Jewish-inspired, horse races, golems. Again, this book was one that I had high hopes for. and it just let me down. I tried pushing through it, and I did. I pushed through it, I finished it, but the characters were just... It's been a long time since I've had characters that I really didn't like, and this one had characters that I didn't like. So that was difficult to reconcile with. But, and then to go back and forth and have a character that you really liked and a plot point that you really wanted to follow was hard. And so it was a very interesting, and it had me like thinking a lot about the characters and what I find interesting and compelling in a character in that regard. But other than that, it was not... I didn't enjoy it. So those are the books that I read in November. I managed to read a lot, which I was surprised about. So hopefully in December I'll be able to read some more. I've got Aragon, the Inheritance series, and the rest of the Shatter Me series on my TBR for December, and then whatever random books I decide to add in the meantime. So we will see what December brings.